Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Bante.
Shall we begin?
Yes, Bante.
Okay, very good. So, good morning, everybody. So this will be our first and our last meditation session together. So let's get into the practice. Just as we've done with all the other practices we've done together throughout the retreat, you want to get into a nice, comfortable position, whether sitting on the floor, sitting in a chair, sitting on a couch, or sitting on a bed. Whatever way you're sitting, it's important to keep a fairly straight spine. That's not overly rigid. If you're leaning too forward or slouching too much, whatever, you're more likely to cause unnecessary pain in the back and in the knees. But it's also a lazy position, which can lead to sluggishness of mind and sleepiness, where the upright spine, the upright posture is a posture of alertness and wakefulness. It opens up the chest cavity so you can have more deeper breaths and more empowering breaths. You can gently close your eyes, keeping your hands on your lap or on your knees. And taking some deep inhales and exhales, breathing in through the nostrils, filling up the lungs, exhaling, breathing in deeply, exhaling. And just letting go of thoughts from your day, plans for the future. Just letting all those thoughts fall away to the back of the mind. Not necessarily pushing them away or being overly aggressive with them. Just not really giving them any attention or paying any mind to them. Instead, bring your attention to the body. feeling the sitting posture, just feeling the body sitting against the floor, buttocks against the cushion, hands on the lap, rising and falling of the chest and the abdomen, beating of the pulse, heart beating. So all the different little sensations, little different warmths and textures that you might be feeling while you're sitting. Straightness of the spine. Instead of getting involved with thoughts of the past or plans for the future, this is a much more wholesome, much more conducive practice, much more conducive hobby of the mind instead of just getting lost in thoughts. If you like, you can scan the body from the top of the head down to the tips of your toes, just going section after section, starting with the forehead, making your way down to the jawline, the neck, shoulders, shoulder blades, feeling for any tension you might be holding that just needs to be melted away by awareness of it. Making your way down the right arm, down to the tips of your fingers, and back up. Cross over to the left arm, down to the fingertips of the left fingers. Back up, going to the chest, the abdomen, feeling the bending of the hips, buttocks against the cushion, thighs, knees, shins and the calves. Down to the tips of the toes. As I mentioned before, this is not a race, not a competition. So you want to go slower. That's your own practice, and that's perfectly fine. If you feel like you're struggling or having a hard time, it's okay too. Just keep at it. Just keep practicing. Don't be critical, don't be judgmental, don't be hard on yourself. For some, it's very easy, others, it takes a little more time, and that's okay. When you get down to the tips of your toes, you can make your way back up from the tips of your toes to the top of the head. You don't have to go as slow this time. Just do just one final sweep. And when you're ready, take 3 more deep inhales and exhales. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in through the nostrils, filling up the chest. Exhaling, breathing in deeply, exhaling, but then cease controlling the breath. As always, with our mindfulness of breathing practice, we don't try to change or manipulate or add on to anything. The practice is just simply being aware of the natural rhythm of the breath, becoming aware of it, being mindful of it, being ardent about observing it. So when the body needs to take in oxygen, you'll take an inhale, breathing in, filling up the lungs, then exhaling, followed by another inhale, followed by another exhale. So that's all we need to do is just watch it. It all happens all on its own. The body knows what the body needs to do. Self-maintaining. So what we got to do is find a place on our body where we can watch and observe. Someplace to put the mind. For some, this is the tip of the nose. For others, it's the lower nostrils. Others, it's the top lip. For some, it's the chest or the abdomen. Just pick one of these places and place the mind there. Choose whichever place stands out to you. It's important that this place is a special connection to you that keeps your attention. Because this is where you'll come back to when the mind gets lost, gets scattered. There's got to be a place that stands out to you. So pick your place and just quietly, mindfully watch the inhaling, the exhaling, in breath, out breath. Occasionally it'll be a long, deep inhale when the body needs more oxygen. So take an extra long inhale, followed by an extra long exhale. Perfectly all right. That's just the nature of the body. It's what the body needs. Just quietly observing. No matter how much we are aware of the in-breath and the out-breath, there'll be all kinds of distractions going on around us and within us. Sounds, people talking, TV's playing, dogs barking, whatever. It's all kinds of sounds. They are what they are. They are what they are. There's no need to get upset about it. There's no need to get frustrated about it. There's no need to get angry about it. Just sounds. What's the point in getting upset about it? Ruining our practice. So when we hear sounds, instead of getting worked up about it, we just watch and observe, become aware that there's sounds going on. We can quietly remind ourselves, sounds, 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 noises, 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 whatever. Just give it a note, give it a label, and let them go. Go back to the breathing. Are you inhaling? Are you exhaling? Is it a short one? Is it a longer one? Just bring yourself back to the breath, or bring yourself back to the body, feeling the body sitting, feeling the hands on the lap, the weight of the body against the cushion, and go back to the breathing. After sitting some time, you'll definitely probably feel some aches and pains in the body, pain in the knee, pain in the back. Instead of getting disheartened, getting frustrated with it, just take that as your object of observation. Place the mind where you feel the pain, say in the knee. See how this pain is dynamic. It's changing as you're observing it. It's throbbing, it's moving, it's pulsating, it's tingling, there's heat, there's cold, there's all kinds of different activities going on in this pain. So I get so upset about it. It can become entertaining. It can become a learning tool. Instead of just saying pain, I hate you, go away. Take it as an object of observation. Let it be by itself. You can label it as pain, pain, pain. And the same thing with pleasant sensations in the body, whatever they might be. Cool breeze, warm feeling, whatever. Instead of latching onto it, claiming it for yours, just acknowledge it as a pleasant sensation in the body. Just like pain is a sensation, just like pain is a feeling. Pleasant sensations can be distractions. They can be a hinder to our practice because we want to hold on to it, we want to keep it because they feel so nice, but they don't last. So we just acknowledge it as pleasant sensation, pleasant, 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 whatever. Just observe it, watch it, and then go back to the body, go back to the breathing. We don't attach, We don't get angry about pain, wishing it to go away. Just watch and observe. And as always, there'll be plenty of activity in the mind. Thoughts of the past, plans for the future, fantasies, daydreams, complaining, boredom, just all kinds of activity, all kinds of thoughts running around, swimming around in the mind. But we're not going to get involved in them. It's just mental activity, just noise in the mind. We become aware of them, that this is the nature of the mind. Instead of getting upset, instead of getting involved in them, just let them float around, go away, fall to the back of the mind. We don't feed into them, they'll just go away. And go back to feeling the body sitting, and go back to the breathing. In breath, out breath, sitting, sitting, sitting. In breath, out breath, sitting, sitting, sitting. Just reminding ourselves what we're supposed to be doing, being present in the moment, being aware of the body, being aware of the breath. So this is how we can practice for this time being. So let's continue on with our practices. Now, let's take a few minutes to cultivate our thoughts of loving kindness. As always, we'll begin with ourselves, directing our thoughts of loving kindness, thoughts of may I be well, may I be happy, may I be safe. Whatever words resonate with you. When you're ready, you can radiate thoughts of love and kindness out to all the beings in the world, just as we wish ourselves all these good things. To send it out to others, just as we have people who love us and we love them and we want to protect them, keep ourselves safe, keep our loved ones safe. So do all other beings. Send your thoughts of love and kindness out to them, radiating in all the directions. Now to finish up, slowly again open up your eyes. Rub our palms together, get nice and toasty. So a little forehead massage, temple massage, top of your head, back of your head, turn back your neck, shoulder blades, shoulders, back, lower back, down your buttocks, your thighs, knees, shins and calves, and down to your feet. Okay, that should do it for us. So thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your retreat.
Okay, good morning again, everybody. And let us begin with the salutation to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, so now we're going to be continuing with our study of the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. And let me share the screen so that we can pick up where we left off yesterday. Oops. Oops. Okay. Okay, so yeah, we've been going through the 3 turnings and the 12 aspects in regard to the 4 noble truths. And so far, yesterday evening, we went through the 3 aspects of full understanding and the 3 aspects of abandoning. The 3 kinds of abandoning. Okay, now I'm going to come to the development of the path. I have too many files. Okay. And so this is the development of the Noble Eightfold Path. And it seems to me I want to distinguish what I would call three stages in the development of the path. So the first stage would be the stage that we as sort of ordinary Buddhist practitioners take up for ourselves. So we begin, we have some conceptual or intellectual right view, we study and reflect upon the teaching of karma, the results of karma, and on the Four Noble Truths. And so at least through reflection, we could get some understanding, particularly of the truth of dukkha, the truth of we could see, at least to some extent in our personal experience, the relationship between craving and the other defilements and suffering at the experiential level. And then we have trust and faith that by following the Noble Eightfold Path, we can overcome craving and all of the associated defilements and reach the cessation of dukkha. So that is our preliminary, I call this the preliminary right view, or there's a Pali expression, anulomika samadhi. Sometimes it's spelled as Satchanulomika Samadhi. So this is the right view that is in conformity with the truths, with the Four Noble Truths. So the word anuloma means in conformity with or conformity. So we have a view based on study, on reflection, on introspection, on our own experience. We gain some right understanding that's in conformity with the Four Noble Truths. It's not yet the right view that comes through realization of the truths. Okay, and then based on that right view arises right intention. So we formulate the intention to reduce our attachments, to relinquish our clinging, and we formulate the intention of goodwill, to wish for the well-being and happiness of others, and the intention of harmlessness, the intention not to inflict harm and suffering on others. Then out of this right intention, then we undertake the effort to practice right speech, right action, and right livelihood. In other words, to live an ethical way of life. And then we turn to mind training or mental training. So we practice, usually in conjunction, right effort and right mindfulness in order to overcome unwholesome states of mind, to develop wholesome states of mind, and particularly to practice right mindfulness as the beginning, the first of the 7 factors of enlightenment. And then as right mindfulness works together in conjunction with right effort, then we achieve some degree of right concentration, at least when we're doing more intensive practice. We could gain, doesn't have to be the full jhanic absorption, but some kind of sustained unification, one-pointedness of mind. So this is the way we practice the 8 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path in our ordinary life, or our lives as ordinary practitioners of the Buddha Dharma. And so if somebody asks us, how do you put into practice your life as a Buddhist? You say, oh, I try to follow the Noble Eightfold Path. But strictly speaking, what we are practicing is, again, another Pali expression. Tibhaga. Yeah, patibhaga means preliminary, in this case, preliminary. So this is the preliminary practice. It's not, call this the real not yet the real liberating Eightfold Path. But the real liberating Eightfold Path starts to emerge when one is engaged in the intensive practice of insight meditation. And we see this described here in the sutta that I referred to this yesterday, but we could go through it again. So this is describing a person who is practicing insight meditation on the 6 sense faculties, the 6 sense bases. So here, this passage is concerned with the eye. So he's knowing and seeing the eye as it actually is, knowing and seeing the objects of the eye, visible forms as they really are, knowing and seeing eye consciousness as it actually is, knowing and seeing contact through the eye as it really is, knowing and seeing the feeling that arises through the eye as it really is. And so that is the person who's engaged in deep, sustained, insight contemplation on the 6 sense bases. The same passage goes on to the ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. But we could also substitute the 5 aggregates when one knows and sees material form as it really is, when one knows and sees feeling or perception, volitional activities, consciousness as they really are. So now the person is seeing, when they're seeing these things as they really are, what they are seeing is these factors as arising and passing away. In other words, as impermanent. Seeing them as impermanent, one is gaining the deeper insight into the deeper meaning of dukkha, the unsatisfactory, oppressive, defective nature of all of these factors of experience. And since all of these factors of experience are impermanent and defective, unsatisfactory, one is relinquishing the identification with them as being I or mine. One is no longer sort of taking them as self, but seeing them as non-self. So now we have the view of the person engaged in this practice. This is the right view. Technically, in the commentaries, this is called vipassana samadhi, the right view of insight. And the intention here is no longer formulating the intention of renouncing sense pleasures or goodwill or harmlessness, but the intention is simply the intention to penetrate the real nature of these phenomena. And then one is making the effort to see into the real nature of these things. And one is mindful of the phenomena that one is observing. And one is focused on those phenomena with concentration. So at this point, the mindfulness, the right mindfulness, is now engaged in the 4th foundation of mindfulness, mindfulness of dhammas, where one is contemplating either the 6 sense bases or the 5 aggregates. And so now one has, and then the bodily action, verbal action, and livelihood have already been well established, well purified. So now one has these 5 path factors engaged and unified in the contemplation of phenomena with direct insight. So this is now becoming the Noble Eightfold Path in the stage of insight. So this is a superior Noble Eightfold Path. And so it's said that now this Noble Eightfold Path comes to fulfillment by development. And when this Noble Eightfold Path is coming to fulfillment, then it brings to fulfillment all the other aids to enlightenment, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, the 4 right efforts, the 4 bases for spiritual power, the 5 faculties, the 5 powers, the 7 enlightenment factors. All of these are coming to fulfillment by development. And as these things reach fulfillment, then two essential factors arise together. These are called, in Pali, this is samatha and vipassana, translated here. Samatha, tranquility or calmness, and vipassana, insight. So those two things are now yoked evenly together. So it's no longer a case where you have the alternatives. I'm developing samatha, but not vipassana, or I'm developing vipassana, but not samatha. But now the mind is unified and focused on the ever-changing stream of phenomena. So that unification, concentration, focus on the changing phenomena is the aspect of samatha, serenity, which is also right concentration, and the seeing into the nature of those phenomena, understanding them, not intellectually, but through direct insight. That is the aspect of vipassana, of insight. And so these things are occurring together. And when it reaches a certain peak of development, then it gives rise to the world transcending, directly liberative Noble Eightfold Path. So this would be called the Lokuttara, or world transcending path. And when this path arises, the way it's explained in the commentaries, the mind turns away from all conditioned phenomena, and just momentarily it takes as its object the unconditioned state, nibbana. So it turns from conditioned phenomena to the unconditioned, to nibbana. And just momentarily, it penetrates that screen of conditioned phenomena and arrives at the unconditioned, the unborn, unproduced, deathless state, nibbana, just instantaneously and momentarily. And with that penetration, it says, one fully understands by direct knowledge those things that should be fully understood by direct knowledge. One abandons those things that should be abandoned. One develops those things that should be developed. One realizes by direct knowledge those things that should be realized by direct knowledge. And so what are the things that should be fully understood? The five aggregates, subject or subject to clinging. What are the things that should be abandoned by direct knowledge? Ignorance and craving. Ignorance and craving for existence. So those are the things that should be abandoned. And so, but I would add not only ignorance and craving for existence, but all of the other defilements associated with them get abandoned in stages. And what are the things that should be developed by direct knowledge? Actually, it's the whole Eightfold Path that should be developed. But here, because it's the advanced stage of the path, the Buddha just singles out serenity and insight, or we could also phrase this as concentration and wisdom, samadhi and panya, which are now being developed to the stage of penetration. And what are the things that should be realized by direct knowledge? This is a little puzzling to me, because usually it's said that what should be realized by the world transcending path is the unconditioned state nibbana. But the text here says vijja and vimutti. So vijja is clear knowledge and vimutti is liberation. Maybe we could understand that these are the things that are achieved at the end of the path, when the development of the path comes to its complete fulfillment. At the final stage, there is this clear knowledge and liberation. So that is the development of the path. And the development of the path is said to, at the level, at the world transcending level, is said to occur in 4 stages. So I'm just going to treat this rather briefly here. Yeah, so we have 4 stages, 4 path attainments, and each path attainment is distinguished by the fetters or defilements that are eliminated and the number of rebirths remaining. So the first breakthrough to the world transcending path is called the attainment of stream entry. With this, one enters the stream of the Dhamma so that one is bound to reach final liberation in a maximum of 7 more lives. And once one reaches stream entry, one could never turn away from the Dhamma again. It's like one is sort of stepped into a flowing stream, and the stream is going to carry one down to the great ocean. It's like stepping into the nearby here, near this monastery, there's the Hudson River. And if you, I've never tried it, I wouldn't try it. But if I were to jump into the Hudson River and not make any effort to swim, just let myself float, I think the Hudson River would take me down, down, down through New York City and then eventually drop me off into the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, so with the attainment, that first breakthrough of stream entry, the path of stream entry cuts off permanently 3 fetters. The first is the view of a substantial self. The second is doubt. It's doubt about the enlightenment of the Buddha and the truth of his Dhamma, and clinging to rules and observances with the belief that they are sufficient to bring one to liberation. And so the stream enterer has at most 7 more existences, either in the human realm or in the celestial, heavenly realms. But the stream enterer is finished forever with the prospect of rebirth in any of the 3 lower realms, the hells, the animals, or the realm of the pretas, the afflicted spirits. And so if a person passes away as a stream enterer, they will have at most 7 more existences. But we're going to be taking a practitioner who's going to go all the ways to the final end. So this person, the stream enterer, now is not satisfied with that assurance, but takes up the practice, aspiring to go further. And so they go back and develop and strengthen their samatha and vipassana, their calm and insight. And if their faculties are strong enough, they reach the breakthrough to the next world transcending path, that of the once returner. And the once returner doesn't actually eliminate any new fetters, but they weaken the 3 underlying roots of greed, hatred, and illusion to such an extent that they eliminate the prospect of 5 more existences. And so they take either one, I guess the general rule is 1 more existence, either in the human or celestial realms. But it's said that if one becomes a once returner as a human being, one could be reborn in the heavenly realm. And then when passing away from a heavenly realm, one can come back 1 more time into the human realm. So you can get 2 more existences, but no more than that. Okay, but now we're going to have, and that would be in either the human or the heavenly realms. But now we're going to take a practitioner who continues the practice and develops to a stronger level their calm and insight. The faculties become mature enough, and they reach the 3rd world transcending path, which is the state called the stage of the anagami. This is the non-returner. So boxes. Okay, the non-returner permanently eliminates the fetters of sensual lust and ill will or aversion. And those are the two fetters that bind one to the desire realm of existence, or the realm of sensual enjoyment. And so with this, the person who passes away as a non-returner is no longer takes rebirth into the human realm or into the sense sphere heavenly realms, but they are reborn into the form realm, presumably in most cases into the pure abodes, a particular section of the form realm. And then they attain final liberation there without ever coming back to this world, to the desire realm. And so for this reason, they are called non-returners. But we're going to take the practitioner who is intent on going further, doesn't even want rebirth into the form realm where they might live for thousands and thousands of years before they attain nirvana, final liberation. But here we have the practitioner who goes on and reaches the fourth world transcending path, the path of arhatship. And this disciple eliminates the 5 subtle fetters, the desire for existence in the form realm, the desire for existence in the formless realm, the subtle conceit, I am. This is not the gross conceit, I'm better than others, I'm the best, I'm number one. But this is just a very subtle residual conceit that there's some I at the base of my experience, a kind of distorted notion of I am. And then the 9th fetter is restlessness. This wouldn't be like the restlessness and agitation that disturbs an ordinary person, but it's just a very subtle little degree of mental rippling and agitation at the base of the mind, presumably connected with the conceit I am. And then the arhat eradicates the subtlest or the deepest fetter of them all, that is ignorance. Actually, the way I look at it, each of these attainments is eliminating some portion of ignorance. So I compare this to the moon, the phases of the moon. So for the ordinary person, it's like the dark moon, where you don't see the moon at all. All you can see, if it's a clear night, you can see that there's a dark sphere in the sky. Okay, but the stream enterer eliminates the first portion of ignorance, and so their wisdom is like the quarter moon. The once returner eliminates the second portion of ignorance, and so their wisdom is like the half moon. The non-returner eliminates the third portion of ignorance, and so their wisdom is like the moon when it's 3/4 of the way full, but still 1/4 is dark. And then the arhat eliminates the fourth and remaining portion of ignorance. And so their wisdom or their mind becomes like the bright full moon. And so the arhat is not reborn anywhere in any realm, but they attain the ultimate unconditioned deathless state, nibbana, which doesn't mean that the arhat continues as an individual into that state, but the succession or process of the 5 aggregates comes to an end. But what remains is not just a nothingness, but what remains is the unconditioned deathless state. And so this takes us now through so now we've come to the completion of the task, the knowledge of completion of the task with regard to each of the Four Noble Truths. The truth of cessation is what is realized by each of the path attainments when they've reached their peak. Okay, so now we'll go back to the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. Okay, so now we've completed this portion where the Buddha speaks about the 3 turnings and 12 aspects. And now the Buddha is going to make, I call this the proclamation of enlightenment. This is in a way his lion's roar, we can call this. It's an expression used in the text when one makes a bold proclamation of some matter relating to attainment or realization. It's called the lion's roar. Because when the lion roars, no other animal can challenge the roar of the lion. Okay, so the Buddha now says, so long as my knowledge and vision of these Four Noble Truths as they really are in their 3 phases and 12 aspects was not thoroughly purified in this way, I did not claim that I had attained the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment in this world with its devas, Mara, and Brahma, in this generation or population with its ascetics and Brahmins, and with its devas and human beings. But when my knowledge and vision of these Four Noble Truths as they really are in their 3 phases and 12 aspects was thoroughly purified in this way, then I claimed that I had attained, the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment in this world with its devas, Mara, and Brahma, in this generation with its ascetics and Brahmins, its devas and human beings. Then the knowledge and vision arose in me. Unshakable is the liberation of my mind. This is my last birth. Now there is no more renewed, renewed existence. Okay, maybe now we can take some questions on anything that we've covered so far. Let me go to the participant list. Wow, a few questions. So we start with Dayani.
Yes, good morning, Bante. Thank you for.
So I have to put my headphones on. Okay, Dayani.
Yes, it's me, Bante. Good morning.
Good
Thank
morning.
you. So, I would like to request Bante if Bante can elaborate more on the portion of ignorance that fall into the substantial self need to be eliminated for the stream enter, Bante. Thank you.
Yeah, what is eliminated by the stream enterer? Let me go back to what is eliminated by the stream enterer is called, in Pali, it's called Sakkaya Ditthi, and that is the view of a self. Put the Pali here. That is the view of a self existing in relation to the five aggregates. So the five aggregates together are what is called Sakaya, a word that means, literally it means the existing body, but it refers to the assemblage of the five aggregates. And so a person who doesn't have any realization can adopt a view of self in relation to the five aggregates in four ways in relation to any of the aggregates. The four ways is to view the aggregate is the self, or the self possesses the aggregate. So the self is like the owner and the aggregate is the possession, or the self is in the aggregate, or the aggregate is in the self. So probably the most natural form of Sakaya Ditti is we identify with one aspect of it, or one aspect of our experience, or another aspect of our experience. We take the body to be I and mine, or we take the body to be I, or the self. We take the mind to be I, or the self. The mind being composed of feeling, perception, volitions, and consciousness. But maybe somebody at a sort of more philosophical disposition will say that the mind and body are always changing and they're perceptible, so they can't be the self, but the self must be something in the background that possesses the body and mind. Or, again, with philosophical speculation, one might hold that the self exists somewhere inside the five aggregates. This was a dominant view in the Vedanta, or the Upanishads, the Brahminical texts that the Buddha confronted in India. Or they might hold that the self is infinite and universal, measureless, and the five aggregates are within the aggregate. Or the aggregate is within that universal self. Yeah, so those are the four aspects of Sakaya Ditti, which can be held in regard to any of the five aggregates. So what the stream enterer has done, he's seen into the non-self nature of the five aggregates at the deepest level. And so with that, eliminated any view of a self in regard to the five aggregates. So that is the level of ignorance that has been eliminated by the stream enterer.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
okay, we'll move on with the questions. So Richard?
Thank you, Bhante. In the attainment of stream entry,
Yeah.
the fetter eliminated, the third one is clinging to precepts and observances. Bhikkhus and bhikkhunis have precepts, and lay followers have the five precepts, and
Yeah.
certainly who observe the Eightfold Noble Path. Could you explain a little bit more about the difference between following those and clinging to them?
Yeah, I think what was actually intended here, against the background of the Buddha's time, was not that this, okay, the expression used here, oops, okay, so the expression used here is sila bhatta, which is sila plus vrata. And it's referring, I think it's originally referring to a kind of belief that was predominant amongst many of like the ascetic communities in the Buddha's time, that the way to liberation is by strictly observing certain like rules of conduct. And by undertaking certain practices, particularly like ascetic practices, for example, like fasting for long periods, undergoing ritualistic bathing in holy rivers, tormenting the body by sleeping on beds of thorns, and so forth, all of these various ascetic practices. And so I think the original intention was like the clinging to that kind of view, the view by undertaking these particular rules laid down in the ascetic communities and these types of ascetic practices, that would be the sufficient means to liberation. But we could also apply this maybe to even to Buddhist practitioners, to those who sort of cling to the precepts, which doesn't mean following or observing the precepts, but clinging to them and clinging to other observances like ceremonial observances, ritualistic observances, with the belief that simply by observing these precepts and uh, engaging in these ritualistic observances, one can gain enlightenment and liberation. But it certainly doesn't mean that a practitioner should violate the precepts or discard the precepts, because the precepts form the base of the sila, which is the foundation for samadhi and panya. Does that address the question?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, I think next is Vinyu.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear. Yeah.
Yesterday, I think you mentioned about the antidote for various hindrances. I wonder whether Bhante could elaborate something about the antidote for fear, like what happened to the disciple that tell his teacher when the elephant actually basically approaching the teacher and that he was in fear. And what is the antidote for fear?
Yeah, in that particular case, maybe that's not so relevant, because there it was enough for the disciple to grab the teacher by the robe and point out to him that he's not an arhat, and then his fear immediately dissipated. He realized that the elephant was just a creation of his own mind. But at least in some suttas, the antidote that's given to fear is to recollect the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. There's a very popular sutta within the Theravada tradition. It occurs in the Samyutta Nikaya. It's the chapter 11, the Sakka Samyutta. It's called the Dajjagga Sutta. And so the Buddha spoke the sutta with reference to those monks who go off to remote dwelling places in order to practice meditation. And so he teaches them that when if fear should arise, fear and terror should arise in the mind, what you can do is to recollect the qualities of the Buddha. And he uses the formula iti piso bhagava that we use with our chanting. And if that doesn't work, recollect the qualities of the Dhamma, swakato bhagavata dhammo. If that doesn't work, then use the recollection of the Sangha, supatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho. So that would be one antidote to fear. Another antidote, which requires a stronger kind of wisdom, is when one feels sort of under threat, bring to mind the teaching of anatta, non-self, that there's no self here, nothing is I, nothing is mine. And then you could see that the fear and the stress are arising because of clinging to the notion of I. And so even if you just understand non-self intellectually, you can just bring it to mind and use that to dispel the fear. In fact, to relate my own experience, back in the very early days as a this was even before I became a monk, but I was still a Buddhist and studying Buddhism. I had worked for 2 years as a lecturer in world religions at California State College at Fullerton. And this was the 1971. This was the days of the student uprisings on campuses when the students were taking over buildings and making this demand, that demand. And I was going in to lecture at this California State College at Fullerton. And that summer, before the fall semester began, I was just so anxious, so apprehensive, because I was originally like quite a shy and private person. Now I have to teach classes of 30 or 40 students. Maybe some of them will take over my class. Maybe some of the students were even locking up their teachers in the closet, in the broom closet. But then I brought to mind, I used actually 2 methods. One was to bring to mind the teaching of non-self and think, I'm going into this class, there's no self that's going to be teaching, nobody here, so just go ahead and teach. The other method I used was I was living at a Vietnamese Buddhist temple, and we were very devoted to Kuan Yin Bodhisattva, so I would recite the name of Kuan Yin Bodhisattva, thinking Kuan Yin is going to be helping me to teach. And then before the first class, I was just so anxious. But once I started to speak, all of that fear just went away and I was able to speak quite confidently. Okay. Okay, we'll take one more question, then we will have a break. So V should lower the hand, and next will be Ron.
Yes, good morning, Bhante.
Yeah, good morning.
Bhante, it's a similar question that was asked before. I understand, the question is why clinging to precepts and observances is considered a fetter. I understand that you can't become a stream enterer by, only clinging to these precepts and observances. That I understand. What I don't understand is why it would be considered a fetter, especially when we take refuge. The second part of the refuge are the precepts.
Okay, yeah.
It's so fundamental.
Yeah. I thought that I made it clear, but maybe just I'll repeat it and try maybe to elaborate a little bit to make it clearer. When one undertakes the precepts, one should follow the precepts and even as I say, adhere to the precepts. But what would be the obstacle would be clinging to the precepts with the belief that just observing the precepts alone, and also engaging in some of these ritualistic and ceremonial observances, that is sufficient to gain the realization of the paths and fruits of liberation. Yeah, so certainly what is being eliminated here is the clinging with the wrong view. In fact, in the Abhidhamma, clinging to precepts and observances is classified as a wrong view. It's the view that merely observing precepts and engaging in observances is sufficient. So the right view would be to see that precepts form the foundation of the practice, and even observances, if it's done like ritualistic observances and ceremonies, if it's done with the right understanding, can be means of developing good, wholesome qualities of mind. For example, like when we do our chanting, we bring to mind the qualities of Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. We recite suttas, we recite blessings. So those can be means of generating and strengthening wholesome states of mind. But one does so without clinging to these practices in the belief that they are sufficient, but rather based on the precepts and helped by certain observances, one has to go on to follow the full Noble Eightfold Path. Does that make it clear?
Yes. Thank you, Bhante.
I see a few more questions, but we're actually past our time for the break. So let us take 10:20. We'll take the 10-minute break. I think that's enough. Then we'll come back at 10:30. And then I will try to finish the exposition of the sutta and then leave the rest of the period open to questions. And those people who have their hands up now will get priority. Sud, Laura, and Mia. Those will be the first ones. So please remember that you go first. Okay, so let's take a 10-minute break till 10:30 and be back in the seat at 10:30. Okay, we are ready to continue now. So we're back to the sutta, back to the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. So we see here that the Buddha has sounded his lion's roar, claiming that it is when his knowledge and vision of the Four Noble Truths in the 3 phases and 12 aspects was thoroughly purified in this way, in the way elaborated in the previous portion of the sutta. Then he was able to claim that he had attained the Anuttara Samma Sambodhi, the supreme or unsurpassed perfect enlightenment. And now, at a certain point during the sutta, okay, so we have a section where concluding the sutta, or concluding the Buddha's statement in the sutta. So this is what the Buddha, the Blessed One, said. He's now finished expounding the Dhammacakka Sutta, setting in motion the wheel of Dharma. And then the group of the 5 monks were happy and they delighted in the Buddha's statement. But now we have a very, very significant statement here, which is just a little bit almost invisibly tacked on or imperceptibly tacked on to this concluding portion of the sutta. So it says, while this discourse was being spoken, there arose in the Venerable Kondanya the dust-free, stainless eye of Dhamma. So this is the Virajang Pita Mallang Dhammacakku. So Raja is dust, and Viraja is without dust, dust-free. Mala is a stain, like rust or dirt, and Vita is gone away, so stainless. And they describe the Dhammacakku. And it said the content of the Dhammacakku is said to be the seeing, directly seeing, whatever is subject to origination is subject to cessation. And what is meant here by the dust-free, stainless eye of Dhamma? This is the arising of the world-transcending, penetrative, right view of the path of stream entry. So what is meant is that through the Buddha's exposition of the Dhamma, Venerable Kondanya amongst the 5 ascetics, Kondanya was the eldest of that group. And according to the commentaries, he had been one of the court Brahmins in Kapilavatthu. So he was listening to the discourse, reflecting on the Buddha's words, and somehow at a certain point, something triggered the arising of that profound insight into the truth of the Dhamma. And so now he got the eye of Dhamma, the dust-free, stainless eye of Dhamma. And it's said elsewhere of one who gains this eye of Dhamma, that kind of person is described as one who has seen the Dhamma, known the Dhamma, penetrated the Dhamma, become confident, self-confident in the Dhamma, and is free from dependence on others in the teaching of the Buddha, the teaching of the Master. So now this event means, in effect, that we can say that the lamp of the Dhamma, the light of the Dhamma, has been passed on from the Buddha to at least one disciple. So if you remember in the opening evening of this retreat, the Buddha was hesitant to go out and teach from apprehension that nobody would be able to realize the Dhamma. Nobody would penetrate the Dhamma. But now somebody has penetrated. Kondanyo has understood the Dhamma. He's given rise to that dust-free, stainless eye and seen the truth, the same truth that the Buddha has realized. He has seen for himself. And now, once he gets that eye of Dhamma, entering the stream of the Dhamma, you could say he's not even dependent on the Buddha anymore for his progress to liberation, because he knows the truth for himself. He now has acquired the liberating Noble Eightfold Path, and he can develop the rest of the path on his own and reach the final goal. Okay, now an interesting shift takes place with the next passage. And I sometimes think I would like to be a film director to make a film of this. We have the camera focused upon this group of ascetics in the deer park, with the Buddha maybe sitting on a higher seat, looking, not like these stereotype pictures of the Buddha, but of course dignified and noble, but still like a human being. And around him are these 5 ascetics who have been practicing these extreme practices, so their bodies are probably quite emaciated, bones jutting out, eyes bulging out from the face. Perhaps they haven't yet shaved the hair and beard. Maybe they have long matted locks and beards. So in the stereotype pictures, we see 5 quite neatly shaved ascetics wearing the standard Buddhist monastic robes sitting around the Buddha. But in reality, it wouldn't have been like that. They might have been wearing just robes made from scattered pieces of cloth. They would have been in tatters, probably dirty from the dust. Okay, so now the camera is focused on that scene, very human scene. And now the camera moves up in stages, because while the Buddha has been expounding the Dhamma, sort of in the background, there have been layer upon layer, tier upon tier of devas who've also been participating in the audience, listening to the teaching. So first, we have the earth-dwelling devas. They raise a shout, give out a shout. At Varanasi, in the deer park at Isipatana, this unsurpassed wheel of the Dhamma has been set in motion by the Blessed One, the wheel that cannot be stopped by any ascetic or Brahmin or Deva or Mara or Brahma or by anyone in the world. Okay, then that cry starts off from the earth-dwelling devas. Those are the deities that dwell in proximity to the earth, in woodlands, in forests, in parks. So they give off the cry. And now the cry goes up to the next level, to the level of the devas of the 4 great kings. This is the lowest of the celestial heavenly realms. And so the devas of the 4 great kings, they hear the cry of the earth-dwelling devas, and they give out the shout, the same shout. And then the shout goes up from the devas of the 4 great kings to the Tavatingsa devas, the next higher level. This is the heavenly realm presided over by Sakka, the king of the devas. Then the cry goes up to the Yama heaven, then to the Tusita Deva world. This is the Deva world where Maitreya is dwelling. Then the cry goes up to the Nimana Rati Devas, the 5th heavenly realm of the sense sphere. Then it goes up to the Paranimitta Vasavati Devas, the Devas who exercise control over the creations of others. So these are the 6 sense sphere heavenly worlds: the heaven of the 4 great kings, the Tavatingsa Devas, the Yama Devas, the Tusita Devas, the Nimana Rati Devas, and the Parinimitta Vasavati Devas. And then the cry goes up from the Parinimitta Vasavati Devas. It transcends the bounds of the desire realm heavens, and it reaches the Brahma world. And so the Devas of the Brahma world raise the same cry, that the unsurpassed wheel of the Dhamma has been set in motion by the Blessed One. And when the sutta is chanted by monks in Sri Lanka, they recite, here it's abridged, but they recite the whole passage in regard to each of the Deva worlds. And not only that, but they divide the Brahma worlds, or the form realm, into all its, I think, 16 sub secondary spheres in the Brahma world. And so it might take them 20 minutes to recite the first portion of the sutta up to this portion. But when they're reciting this portion, it might go on for another hour and a half. But it's quite inspiring and beautiful to listen to. So now our camera has been going up one layer after another, getting more and more radiant as we come to the higher and higher Deva worlds. And when we get to the Brahma world, it's brilliant radiance. It's even blotting out our vision. It's so bright and brilliant. And so then the text tells us, at that moment, at that instant, at that second, the cry spread as far as the Brahma world and this 10,000-fold world system. So that would be like the counterpart to our modern conception of the galaxy, maybe the Milky Way, shook, quaked, and trembled, and an immeasurable, glorious radiance appeared in the world, surpassing the divine majesty of the gods of the Devas. So now our camera, the film being made by our camera, it's flooded by this brilliant light, and we have beams of light within beams of light within beams of light. And where we're sitting there in the audience, we're sort of rubbing our eyes because the light is just so brilliant that we can't even sustain our focus on the screen. Then suddenly the camera shifts back down from the human world, from the celestial realms, the heavenly realms, back to this very mundane scene in the human world, where the Buddha is sitting there, accompanied by the 5 ascetics. And then the Buddha gives out this, it's called an udana. It's an inspired utterance, or it's said to be a joyful utterance. So the Buddha calls out, Kondanyo has indeed understood. Kondanyo has indeed understood. Because the Buddha must have been so happy now that mission he set himself to transmit the Dhamma to the world, at least now the first spark of realization has arisen within the people of the world. As I said earlier, that torch of Dhamma has now been passed to one person. And of course, we know that that torch is going to be then spread out from this generation to the following generations, all the ways down to the present day. And so in this way, the Venerable Kondanyo acquired the name Anya Kondanyo. In some versions, probably more accurately, it would be Anyasi Kondanyo, which means Kondanyo who has understood. And that takes us to the end of the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. And so we can now devote the rest of the period to questions. And I said that there were some people, yeah, I see the hands of the people who raised them this morning still there. So let us take them in turn. So Sut.
Thank you, Bhante, for this wonderful teaching. We're truly blessed to, learn the Dhamma. So it seems like this path is in stages and probably takes several lifetimes. And obviously, someone like a stream enterer is safe in that he is bound to probably encounter the Dhamma in the future, whether he practices a lot or not. But what about those of us, I guess, who are just in the preliminary stages, like preliminary right view that you're talking about, where you're just, and then following just the preliminary eightfold path. I mean, let's say they just never get to the point where they're kind of safe, like I guess you would say somebody who acquires all those stages, those higher stages, but just who do their best. What about them? Like, how can they encounter the Dhamma, and let's say in the future life, and let's say if they pass away, well, they continue to practice?
Okay. So just to put the question concisely, so how can people who don't reach the stages of the Aryan disciples, how can they be ensured of encountering the Dhamma again and continuing with their practice? Yeah, what I would say is that it is the qualities like faith, devotion, and practice and wisdom, whatever wisdom we acquire, whether through study, reflection, and through practice, that those form supporting conditions for encountering the Dhamma again in future lives. Yeah, maybe the technical expression from the Abhidhamma system would be Upanisaya Paccaya. This is strong supporting conditions. So, and that's why I say that the sense of going for refuge in the three jewels is extremely important, because it's this sense of committing oneself to the three jewels, the three refuges, that forms the connecting link from this life into our future lives to bring us together with the Buddha Dharma. Like, it's, even though it's of course value to do things like anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, or just general mindfulness practice, but if one doesn't have that, connect that practice with the going for refuge and ground it in the going for refuge, then there's no assurance that one's practice is going to continue from life to life. But it's the connection with the three refuges and the commitment and aspiration to realize the truth of the Dhamma that's going to bring us into contact with the Dhamma again. Of course, there's no guarantee, and there'll be long periods, according to Buddhist cosmology, of cosmic time in which the Buddha Dhamma is not available in the world. But still, when we build up these factors, or these faculties of especially faith, practice, and right view and wisdom, whenever the Buddha Dhamma becomes available, that's going to connect us to it. So we take like the great disciples of Gautama Buddha, like Sariputta, Moggallana, Ananda. So according to the commentaries, they spent many, many lives. They didn't attain stream entry under previous Buddhas, but they encountered previous Buddhas. And under those Buddhas, they formed the aspiration to become chief disciples or great disciples of a future Buddha. And then they continued to practice, and their practice built up these qualities we call the paramitas or paramis, which provided the supporting conditions for encountering the Buddha Gautama and attaining enlightenment under his guidance. Yeah, so that's what I would say. Okay, we could take the next question. This is from Laura.
Hi, thank you, Ante. At the superior eightfold path,
coming to fruition? You said there's a list of other things, but I couldn't get them all that also come and ripen of mindfulness and whatnot. And I'm also wondering, who is Khandana?
There's two questions there. Okay, what are the other things that come that are sort of brought to maturity through the development of the superior noble eightfold path? They're actually mentioned in the sutta that I cited. Let's go back and look at it. Okay, so the things that come to maturity would be, basically these are called the 37 aids to enlightenment. So we have the 4 foundations of mindfulness, 4 right efforts, 4 bases for spiritual power. So those are 12. Then the 5 faculties, the 5 powers. So those are 22. Then the 7 enlightenment factors, 22 and 7, that's 29. And then the 8 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. So those together form 37. Yeah, that's a familiar, quite common system of classification. And you find many suttas will elaborate upon these 37 aids to enlightenment. Okay, then who is Khandanya? Yeah, the suttas don't give us, themselves don't give us much biographical information about Khandanya, but we know that there was this group of 5 ascetics who waited upon and attended upon the future Buddha when he was undertaking his period of striving. And Khandanya was apparently the elder of that group, the leader of that group. But the commentaries tell us that when the future Buddha was born, there was a group of court Brahmins that his father consulted about the future destiny of the little baby. And those court Brahmins, all of them, with one exception, held up 2 fingers, which they explained to mean that the little baby has 2 destinies open to him. If he remains in the household life, he'll become a wheel-turning monarch, a universal monarch, unifying the world under the reign of righteousness. Or if he goes forth into homelessness, he'll become a fully enlightened Buddha. And then what the one Brahmin held up 1 finger and said, so far as I could see, there are not 2 destinies open to this baby, only 1 destiny. That is, he's going to become a fully enlightened Buddha. And that Brahmin who held up the 1 finger was Khandanya. Yeah, that's the commentarial account. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. Okay, so we'll have to move on with the questions. And Mia?
Thank you, Bente. My question is, when you talk about the unconditioned Nibbana state, is that the same as the Buddha nature or the true mind in all the tradition?
Yeah, the expressions Buddha nature and true mind come from, I would say, a later phase in the development of Mahayana Buddhism. And so in the early teachings, the teachings of the Nikayas, we don't come across those expressions. But maybe the texts from a later period might identify those terms with Nibbana. But in the early forms of Buddhism, we don't find those expressions, Buddha nature or true mind.
But they are similar, are they?
Maybe in the sense that they are considered to be, and this would take a person who's more expert in that phase of Buddhist philosophy than I am, but to the extent that they are considered unconditioned realities, which are the ultimate objects of realization, in that respect, you might say that they're similar to Nibbana.
Thank you,
But
Bente.
whether they can be identified in all respects, that would be a matter of, I guess, scholarly comparison based on somebody who knows both systems in greater detail. I don't have that knowledge.
Thank you, Bente.
Okay. Anoka? Yeah, you have to unmute.
Good morning, Bante.
Good morning.
Can you please tell me the difference between stream entry and fruition of stream entry?
Yeah, the distinction should not be between stream entry and fruition of stream entry, but the distinction is between the path of stream entry and the fruition of stream entry. And this distinction, it is made explicit within the Abhidhamma system. In the suttas, we just read of somebody realizing, being on the practice leading to the fruit of stream entry, and somebody who's attained the fruit of stream entry. So it seems within the sutta system, somebody is engaged in the practice, determined to attain stream entry. And then when they attain stream entry, that itself is the fruition of stream entry. So that seems to be the perspective of the sutta way of explanation. In the Abhidhamma system, and this gets a bit technical, the event of realization, the event of attainment, is dissected into momentary states of mind. These states of mind are called chittas, just flashing momentary states of mind. And in the process of attainment of stream entry, when, insight knowledge has reached a certain peak, and then the disciple enters upon a process of mind in which there arises for one chitta, one mind moment, the path of stream entry. So the path of stream entry from this perspective is just one momentary chitta, one flashing state of mind, which has the function, it takes as its object Nibbana, it directly realizes Nibbana, and it has the function of eliminating or abandoning certain defilements. And that one moment of the path is followed by several moments, several mind moments that are called fruition, the fruits of that path. So there takes place the path of stream entry for one flashing mind moment, and then there will be 2 or 3 mind moments, which are called fruition, in which one experiences the bliss and freedom that follows from the elimination of those defilements by the path. Yeah, so we have 2 different perspectives, from the sutta perspective and the Abhidhamma perspective.
So Bante, when you say you entered stream entry, and then, if you're a stream enterer, you only have maximum of 7 lifetimes. So do you actually have to be in the fruition stage for that? Or if you're walking the path of the stream entry, are you kind of in the stream entry stage? Where you...
Well, this process takes place for any stream enterer. This process will take place where you go through the path as one mind moment, the fruition as a few mind moments that follow it. And then one comes out and one goes back to like normal consciousness. where you can be cooking a meal or taking a walk or, driving to work, whatever. But still, once you have gone through that experience of reaching the path and fruit, there are only at most 7 more lives. It's not something that happens only when you're in the fruit, but once you go through path and fruit, that experience eliminates the prospect of any more existences beyond 7. And it's also said with it, again, this is within the system of the Abhidhamma and commentaries, that once a person goes through the path and fruit of stream entry, then they can re-enter the fruition experience as an extended meditative attainment. So they don't go through the path again. You only go through each of the 4 paths only once for one mind moment. But once a person goes through the path and fruition of stream entry as a stream enterer, they can re-enter the fruition as an extended meditation, even continuing in the fruit for an hour, 2 hours, perhaps even a full day, where the mind becomes absorbed in the nirvanic experience.
Thank you, Bante.
But that's a meditative absorption. That you don't do when you're driving to work. Better not try it when you're driving to work. Otherwise, you might get into an automobile crash and go into the final nirvana. Okay, we'll have to move on with the questions. And when I finish with the question, please lower the hand. Okay, next question is Andrew.
Well, thank you, Bante. Thank you for such an excellent teaching. I have a question about doubt. And we are raised in the contemporary world to think of doubt as being somewhat healthy. Yeah. And a lot of people point to the Kalama Sutta and say, oh, we see the Buddha had doubt. He taught doubt. And yet, I also understand that doubt is a fetter and it's difficult to be rid of doubt. So yeah. I think my question is about what is healthy doubt when approaching the suttas, when approaching this path?
Yeah, I think that kind of doubt is a healthy, as you said, it's a healthy quality. In fact, it's even an important quality. And maybe I would call that kind of doubt maybe initial wisdom, or maybe investigative wisdom, where you're not just accepting teachings blindly and without any question, but you want to clear up your understanding. And so you investigate either by study or by going to teachers and ask questions. And in this way, you're resolving those doubts in a healthy, vitally important way. And this is, in a way, like clearing the ground for true wisdom to arise by getting rid of that obstacle of doubt. But I think what is meant by the fetter of doubt and the hindrance of doubt is the doubt that keeps on drawing one back and prevents one from sort of taking the plunge into the practice and thereby gaining realization. And what's maybe significant is that the fetter of doubt is eliminated only with the actual attainment of stream entry. So there can be perhaps a lingering doubt, even all the ways up to the very edge of stream entry, the very verge of stream entry. So there can be some underlying doubt there because one still hasn't seen the truth of the teaching for oneself. But with the attainment of stream entry, when one gets the eye of Dhamma, when that arises, then one sees the Dhamma for oneself. And so one has no doubt that what the essence of the Buddha taught is true. And because one has seen the truth of the Dhamma, then one realizes that the Buddha was indeed properly enlightened and that are other noble ones who have seen the truth of the teaching, who constitute the Aryan Sangha. I don't think the attainment of stream entry would maybe eliminate doubts about whether there are all of these different classes of divine beings, whether there's a heaven of the four great kings, heaven of the Tavatingsa heaven presided over by Sakka. Perhaps even a stream enterer could have doubt about that, though maybe they'll just accept it out of trust in the text. But the critical doubt that's eliminated is doubt about the truth of the teaching and doubt about the enlightenment of the Buddha.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on now, and we take Janlong.
Hello, Bande. Thank you so much for giving us such a profound Dhamma talk. I have a quick question regarding to the second noble truth. On your book, the manual of Abhidhamma, there is for this second noble truth that it's only one cetasika of lobha, which is the cause of dukkha. My question is why there's no moha or other akusala cetasikas. Thank you.
Okay, so this is according to the Abhidhamma way of explanation. So it said that the second noble truth, the suttas say the second noble truth is craving.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the Abhidhamma system, craving is identified with a particular cetasika. The cetasikas are the mental factors. And that mental factor is lobha, which is greed. So we have in the suttas, we encounter a variety of terms. So we have raga, which I translate as lust or passion, chanda, desire, lobha, greed, tanha, craving. What are some of the others? I think anurodha. Various terms that are used in the sutta teaching. And what the Abhidhamma does is to reduce all of these terms to particular individual mental factors. And so all of these terms in the Abhidhamma get reduced to the one mental factor of lobha. Does that make it clear?
Yeah, but why moha is not there? I mean,
okay, why moha
cause of
okay, so that's because the Abhidhamma is sort of following exactly what the sutta says. So when the sutta speaks about the noble truth of the origin of dukkha, the only factor it mentions is tanha or craving. And so craving, as I said, is identical with lobha. So that's why lobha alone is mentioned. But sometimes a more extensive explanation will be given of what are the factors that maintain the round of birth and death, that maintain samsara. And then it would be said that all defilements, all the kilesa, plus kama, are the factors that sustain the round of rebirth and that are underlying causes of dukkha, of suffering within the round of rebirths. So when that is said, then you could bring all the defilements, greed, hatred, delusion, conceit, wrong views, dullness, restlessness, and so forth, can all be brought in as causes for a continued existence in samsara.
Okay, thank you. Sadhu. Thank you.
Okay, now Lee 1. Lee 1.
Hi, Bante. Thank you very much. So my question is for a stream enterer, since lust or hatred is not fully abandoned yet, is there a possibility that a stream enterer can still violate the precepts? And if so, how is this going to affect the realm he or she is going to reborn into, or his or her path to enlightenment?
Okay, so the question, the stream enterer has not yet abandoned, say it again, the first part?
The lust and hatred is not fully abandoned yet for stream enterer, right? So is there a possibility that a stream enterer violates the precepts that may affect the karma and the realm that he may be reborn into?
Okay. So the question, since the stream enterer has not yet eradicated hatred, so is there a possibility that the stream enterer could violate or break the precepts, and by breaking the precepts might be liable to rebirth in any of the lower realms? Okay, so the stream enterer has not yet eradicated greed, hatred, or delusion, but they've weakened greed, hatred, and delusion to a certain extent so that they cannot be reborn in the lower realms. Okay, this question whether the stream enterer can ever break the precepts, it's an interesting question because it is not said in the suttas. There's no passage in the sutta that says that a stream enterer cannot break the 5 precepts. What's said about the stream enterer, the things that they cannot do, the 6 things, is they cannot kill their mother, kill their father, kill an arahant, maliciously cause the Buddha to bleed, to injure the Buddha so that he bleeds, maliciously cause a schism in the Sangha. And then the 6th is to point to or to declare someone else as their spiritual teacher rather than the Buddha. But it's not said in the suttas that the stream enterer can't break the 5 precepts. This is the way I understand this, that during their life, when they realize that they're a stream enterer, they will not break the precepts because they're aware that they're a stream enterer, and they're aware of the 5 precepts, and so naturally they'll adhere to the 5 precepts. And now this is just my speculative thought. Don't sort of quote me on this as something fixed, but I just wonder if, say, a stream enterer is reborn, is reborn as a human being. When they're a little kid, they haven't yet encountered the Dhamma, don't know anything about the precepts. So maybe when they're playing with their companions, maybe playfully, can they step on insects? Is that possible? I don't know. I just don't know. But maybe that's a possibility. Maybe that's why it's not said that the stream enterer can't break the 5 precepts. But certainly I would say that the stream enterer, while they're once that little kid that encounters the Buddha Dhamma and learns the 5 precepts, then I would assume that they would automatically uphold and maintain the 5 precepts consistently. That would be my hypothesis.
Thank you.
What's certainly true is that the stream enterer can't break the precepts in any way that could create karma leading to rebirth in the lower realms. Okay, I'm going to have to move quickly now because we're coming to ending time. So we'll take Malati. Please keep questions short and concise.
Thank you, Bhante. My question refers to an earlier question that was asked before the break. I thought it was very interesting. It's about being too attached to the 5 precepts, if I had understood right. Does it mean that being attached too much to the 5 precepts is that you are entrenched in the worldly realm?
No, I wouldn't say that a person who's attached to the precepts is entrenched in the worldly realm. Yeah, what is sort of rejected in my interpretation as clinging to precepts is holding to the precepts with the belief that merely observing precepts and following other observances is sufficient for liberation. But certainly when you take the 5 precepts, then you should hold to them consistently and, and continuously and consistently. And don't worry that being entrenched, I don't see how that's going to entrench one in the worldly realm.
Thank you very much. Now I understand it a little
Okay.
better, because the question itself was new to me, so that is fine.
Okay.
Thank you, Bhante, and thank you for such a wonderful exposition of the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta.
Okay, and now we take Wiley. And this will have to be the last question.
Bhante, thank you. Why is it that stream enterers and once returners and anagamis are so rare? And if there are any arahants around, they're certainly not making themselves obvious. What's going on with that?
Yeah, I think those who reach these stages of attainment will not go about boasting about them. And also, I mean, they are difficult attainments, not so easy to attain those stages. And it requires mature paramis, qualities and sharp faculties. But there can be people who have been devoted to the Dhamma, practicing seriously, who reach those stages, but they wouldn't go about declaring themselves, I am a stream enterer. At least they wouldn't declare publicly. They might tell their teacher or close friends and have it checked out by maybe qualified teachers, but it wouldn't be a matter of sort of public proclamation. Okay, we're going to have to bring this retreat to an end now. And so what we're going to do is to end with the sharing of the merits. But before we do that, I'm going to want to acknowledge the people who have contributed to the preparation for this retreat and who have been working in the background during the retreat, especially maintaining the Zoom platform and seeing that everything is, and the recording, and seeing that everything is done properly. So usually we always have these devoted members of our BAUS team, the regular team, Jason Yeh and Kaidi Xu, who started planning the retreat back maybe 2 months ago. And then Siu Koswata has been something of the coordinator of the tech team and the participants of our tech team. I should also mention, though I didn't see her on the retreat, but Valeria Clark, who designed the website announcement about the retreat very beautifully. All of her artwork, graphics work is very beautiful, it's very skillfully done. Then Siu Koswata has been something of the coordinator for the tech team. And then on the tech team, we've had Yorong Liu, Osmond Boyk, Jane Marie Du, Yvonne Tsung, and Vaishali Gaidani. Did I get everybody, or did I overlook anybody?
Yes, Bhante.
I got everybody.
I think so.
Okay, if I overlooked anybody, then please pardon me. Okay, so let us end the retreat with the sharing of the merits. And so we can just for a moment, a minute or so, generate the mind of loving kindness and call to mind all of the merits, the punya, the wholesome karma that we've generated in the course of these Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 4 days of teaching the Dhamma, listening to the Dhamma, discussing the Dhamma, doing the recitations and the meditations. I should mention amongst the credits, also I have to give credit to Bhante Mangala, who's been assisting and guiding the meditations every day. So please excuse me for overlooking that. Okay, so we think of everybody who has been participating in this retreat. We've been generating this wholesome karma, and now we want to share this karma with others. And so if you have any like departed relatives or friends, you can bring them to mind and invite them with your mind to witness your activities and to rejoice in your merits. Departed relatives, friends, departed teachers. And then we bring to mind as well the devas, particularly we call the Dhamma protecting devas, and the Nagas, who are also protectors of the Dhamma, and the fierce spirits, the yakshas or bhutas, who eliminate the obstacles to the Dhamma. And we invite them in our minds, with our minds, to share in the merits. Okay, continue reflecting in that way, and I'm going to recite the verses for sharing the merits. Akasata chabumata deva nagamahidika punyantam anumoditva chirang rakantu sasanam. Akasata chabumata deva nagamahidika punyantam anumoditva chirang rakantu desanam. Akasata chabumata deva nagamahidika punyantam anumoditva chirang rakantu mang parang. Etavatacham hehi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampati siddhya. Etavatacham hehi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampati siddhya. Etavatacham hehi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe sata anumodantu sabba sampati siddhya. Bhavagupadaya avici etato etantare satakayupapanna rupya rupicha sanya sanino dukkha pamuchantu pusantu nibuting. And then we end with 3 bows to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. So 1, 2, and 3. And let me thank all of the participants for joining during the course of this retreat. I appreciate that so many people joined and stayed on through the end of the retreat. And I hope this retreat has been helpful and beneficial in understanding this first very consequential discourse of the all enlightened one, the Buddha. Okay, thank you so much. And we'll have to be going up for the meal now.
Bhante, before you leave, may I just remind everyone of your upcoming July and August class about Abhidhamma?
Yeah, good, yeah.
So I'm just going to share the screen. And I typed the information on the chat box as well. Sorry, I just want to let everyone know. Hold on a second. It's not, okay. So if you go to our website, baos.org, you will see this event, Abhidhamma Philosophy of the Theravada Tradition course with Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi. And the link is also available at the chat box. So you can go in there and take a look of the information. And also we appreciate any amount of a donation to support the program and the future programs and the Sangha in the monastery. And also, if you want to introduce people about Bhante's work, on our ebook collections here, you will be able to apply a library card and get access to Bante's work, the Nikaya's work. And you can go here to apply for an application form. It's under the Visit Us, the Wuru Memorial Library. And from here, you can sign up for an e-library card and to have access to the e-library. Okay, so thank you everyone. Thank you, Bante. I'm going to unmute everyone.
Yeah,
so
I should mention, I should just mention that the first Abhidhamma session will be next Saturday, and there'll be 2 sessions since it's sort of being hosted in California at the Dharma College in California. So there'll be 1 session in Eastern time from 1 to 3 p.m. Then the second session will be from 5 to 7 p.m. And it'll be based on chapter 3 of the comprehensive manual, because I did chapters 1 and 2 last January. And the recordings are available through the link.
So I'm going to unmute everyone, so everyone has a chance to say thank you to Bante.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you, Bante.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Bante.
So much, Bante.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Wonderful, Bante.
Sadhu, sadhu, Bante. Sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Bante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Be safe, be well.
Thank you, Bante. Have a good lunch.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll have to disappear. I'll have to be going up to the link.
Okay, bye, Bante.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, Bante.
Bye, Bante.